Hello, everyone, and this is Mithul in conversation with two of my colleagues, team members, and friends, Gayatri and Molly. And we have had enough of this quarantine, COVID 19, solving puzzles in WhatsApp for the last 34 days now. And things are just going out of the hands. So we decided that we are going to come with a weekly talk show where we speak about different aspects, things which are changing, talk a bit about the new normal, and see if we can contribute to this entire stuff in the days to come. So, we're going to talk a bit about e-learning, online learning, and how the education sector is taking a huge kind of a disruption due to whatever is happening in this pandemic globally, locally, nationally. Everything seems to be changing as far as education goes, the way it is imparted, the way it is disseminated, the way people are assessed. We are hearing every day in different television shows, newspaper, people talking about it, of course, without a solution. So let's have a quick chat with Gayatri and Molly, and here we start. So we've seen interesting pattern getting broken. It was +2 grads, MBA, and then a nice offer letter with a 6-figure salary. And in my career, this is the second time I'm seeing the millennial dream getting shattered. Slowly, it's becoming a story of survival. Isn't it, Molly?
Yes, so I shall quote Darwin out here and say that not actually the survival, but survival of the fittest. So just like we are having a conversation right now, I'm sure that many agencies around the world or many marketers around the world are frowning and having the same conversations. We're going back to the board time and again and trying to find out a solution. So ultimately, it's a test for all of us, and it will be a survival of the fittest. Well, thankfully, during this period of time, especially girls, and that includes me also, especially Gayatri, my colleague. So congratulations, Gayatri, you survived for more than a month without all those Myntra, Amazon, Shein, Sugar and Mac. And all she is doing day in and day out is shopping for the groceries and then coming back home and cooking the daily meals. So that's how life has turned into right now.
बहुत hard, isn't it? But see, I survived. Now, Molly, stop teasing me. Don't piss off the listeners. This is our only hope of getting some business. What do you say, sir?
I just couldn't resist myself laughing. Business, right? I mean, well. I still remember that it all started somewhere. You all know, right? I come from this small town called Allahabad. We used to have circuses coming in those times, and I did watch the guy on the tightrope session, which delighted me more than usual. And I just thought, how does he survive? How does he even walk like this? How does he handle all this pressure? And see, when you say business, I suddenly kind of connect to that, because what's happening now, that after 3 decades later, I myself feel that I'm the same guy walking on the rope. So yeah, I mean, business is what we really are talking about at this juncture, Gayatri. Thanks for reminding.
Well, I would beg to differ out here. I don't think it's a story of the tightrope walker alone. I can never forget the clown. I can never forget the animals who were all part of the circus. So, right, in the same way, in this agency, it's not only about you. So, there are many people who are working in and day out, and we're all looking for solutions. So, it's not only about the tightrope walker. It's actually about the entire setup out here, and we actually feel we are caught in a circus. And the saddest part is the lot of courses and all. So we all are saying that, okay, let's cope up with this quarantine. Let's do something different. Let's utilize this time. But even after going through the courses and everything, I really don't know what to pick up or what to do. I see my nephew and I see he's equally confused. He doesn't have to go to school. He was initially very happy, but right now he's confused. He doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know why his mom and dad are not allowing him outside the house. So that is because he doesn't really go to a proper, maybe, he still is in an elementary school. And I would like to know what is happening in bigger schools, like when people are in class 5, 6, or when it's the middle or the senior school students. I would like to know from sir, how are they coping up? Because you have your son who is almost maybe in 2-3 years he will be in board. So how is he coping up with COVID-19?
Yeah, catching with time, Molly. I mean, he is already in class ninth, and I think I think that's a very interesting one because see, we all talk about these jargons, we all talk about these adjustments, the new normal, the new way of living, but I have actually witnessed it as far as education goes. While I see my son pursuing education for the last 1 month, I mean, I really did not think that it was a transition. I mean, why would I? It was just a lockdown period, couple of days, weeks of being at home, quarantine. How much does it take? Why would it change people psychologically? But I actually saw that happening in front of my eye because he's a vociferous reader, he's someone who cannot live without books, he loves his school. So and I think he's lucky because in the school he is, they immediately created a small platform to disseminate education, assessment, and most importantly, a connect. Because what happened in his case was that he had just stepped into class 9 from class 8, and he barely had done 2 or 3 classes physically before this lockdown happened. And over the last 1 month, I have seen him from getting very little interested in doing this online thing, now becoming somebody who is clocking his day and time basis the online classes he's having. And today he's having online class from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening with intermittent break, assessments, exam. And the best part is, and I don't know whether that is new normal or not, that he has actually created more than 20 odd WhatsApp groups with different friends in his new class who share different kind of hobbies and passion. And I think that's what we are looking at. And that's the new normal. So yeah, he has started. So, and I consider myself to be very lucky to see this transformation and change happening right in front of my eyes.
True. But then, when I was listening to you, I was just visualizing that how would a person feel? So all of a sudden, he was so used to school and meeting his friends every day and going to the jamming sessions because I know him. I have seen, and just like other kids, because things were different in 90s, we were not so active as kids. But right now, kids are pretty active. They have a vast social life. I can understand that they have a huge virtual life too. But the social life is also, there are a lot of things which they actually involve themselves in. So what happens is, in this transition, we are actually losing ourselves and trying to actually cope up with it. So somehow this coping mechanism, whether the school can do it or the parents can take it up, but I somehow feel that there should be some way or there should be ways of coping with this entire thing. So what do you think about the coping mechanisms and, across boards, I feel? May it be a student, may it be a normal person, we all are going through a change. How to cope with the same?
Well, let me take this a little lighter. I mean, I can't agree with both of you, but have you ever thought about those parents, those tired parents who are staring off their day with half-baked sandwiches? Imagine them in a room full of dirty clothes, a discussion on boys are better than girls or girls are better than boys, aging parents, and oh my god, those cranky children.
Oh, okay. I mean, don't even remind me of all that now, Gayatri. I mean, you've been just pulling the right, or do I say the wrong chords every time? I mean, I've been dying to get back to my normal. I've had enough of this new normal, honestly. I mean, I miss my chamber, I miss my meetings, I miss my chai addas, I miss everything. And I can certainly relate to what Molly has been saying while she said coping up with this change. Because the life has changed so much. I mean, I have got a lot more domesticated than I was in my last 18 years of being married. So I think I've started missing things so badly that just yesterday I was telling my kid to tell me a good morning, sir, so that I could just, feel that thing which I've not been feeling for long. So those high-pitched meetings, those sessions on cash flow, the business plan, the business strategy, which used to be the lifeline, suddenly seems to have changed. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm missing them a lot. So you have made me sad again.
We can continue ranting, I believe, that because right now I feel it's like a Pandora's box, and all that is left of this entire thing is hope. We can all hope for a better tomorrow. Let's get down to the points. The point is, why are we actually trying to, what are we actually trying to understand out of this entire conversation is we are missing out on a very, very important and a pertinent point of life, that is education. So that is something somehow getting missing in the curriculum. So people are looking for groceries, people are looking for, we are hearing about courses, we are hearing about a lot of things, we're hearing about online classes, but how to streamline this? So it is very difficult for me to actually think at 11 o'clock in the night whether to attend a Saurabh Jain or a Neil Patel, or to get into an app development class, or maybe that coding and thing which I actually thought that I would pursue. So how to actually, and being a professional and working for the past so many years, if it's so confusing for me, just imagine the kids. I feel sorry for them. Like, how are they managing with this entire thing? So what do you think about this information dissemination process? Like, how should people start, streamlining this entire process of disseminating education or information in this entire thing?
Yes, sir. Even I would like to get a point on that, because education is definitely a necessity. And sadly, people do not die because of lack of education, but they do because of lack of food or because of starvation. Maybe that is why the government has taken all initiative to distribute just groceries and not books or stationery. I mean, would you please like to give us your thought about that?
I think. Good of you, Molly and Gayatri, to pull this session back to what we really wanted to achieve out of this. I think I've been fortunate, because we've been working with some of these educational houses pan-India, and we've been trying to set up a framework or a process which will allow them, I can't say to absolutely replace the physical education, physical classroom-based setup, but at least to give it an honest try of creating an alternate model which can become the new normal in today's time. I mean, we all are aware that this entire COVID-19 pandemic is not binary in nature. I mean, if you look at all the conversations flowing in, there is a high chance or a probability that it will happen or recur in intermittent phases. So it's important to create an alternate model. And that perhaps always, I coming from a PwC background, I believe that in order for a framework to be created, there has to be an amalgamation of change in people, process, technology, and governance. And I think all these four things need to come together. So a change in people mindset. So just an example, today, when you see all these teachers who are habituated to come within a class, speak to their kids or mentees, interact with them and teach a subject, it's actually really difficult when you are taking that same class, staring in front of almost a blank screen, because due to network issues, almost all the students are not switching on their videos, and you are trying to motivate yourself to deliver the best of the class lecture for them is definitely a challenge. Process in terms of ensuring that each and every kid is learning in that session, is present in that session, is awake in that session, is understanding things in that session, gets a lot more difficult when it happens virtually. So there has to be a clear process definition. I have seen in some of these schools, they absolutely randomly get a person activated on video and ask him a question. And many a time, so I do some management lectures in a business college, and in one of my occasions when I unmuted and activated a few videos of students who were taking my class, you will not even imagine, I can't even tell what did I see. So there has to be a change in the processes. And then I think comes the technology part. And I like to this might look as a marketing pitch as always. That's the sad part of being a marketer for more than 20 years now. But we have been able to create an integrated platform, which is a technology platform, which we are right now testing for 3 or 4 large institutions in India, which will allow a single umbrella platform from starting from registration to enrollments to dissemination of knowledge to assessment to certification to reporting, and that's a good product to have. And like I said, finally the governance part of it, which is like, how do we assess the report? How do you use artificial intelligence or big data to monitor the entire procedure or program? So that's the amalgamation. I know a lot of people hearing this, even you both, might now start bombarding me with a lot of things around what happens when somebody does not have the right infrastructure, what happens when somebody does not come up from a very privileged kind of background. And honestly, these are challenges. There are challenges, but today, when you look into deeply into India, where even a farmer today is using a WhatsApp and various apps, you have a basic infrastructure in place where you can roll this out as an alternate model. And let me just highlight this again. It's an alternate model for sure, because this does not replace the fun, the charm, the beauty of doing or taking up a physical face-to-face class. But it is something which I believe all the institution, whether they are an educational institution or an institution imparting finishing skill or extracurricular skills, they need to start thinking of it unless they have already thought of it. So I think that should give a bit of a clarity, I hope, Molly and Gayatri, on the way this entire thing is moving ahead.
Well, I somehow feel that podcasts would be a nice way of engaging people instead of just, because right now we no longer have the conventional medium and it's very boring to just scroll through slideshows and all. It at times voices do help, and especially when you do not have any face in front of you, it actually can do wonders. So what if the concepts are explained over an audio? So just like we have Audible, we can all listen to books these days at the same way, in the same format. Why can't we just have podcasts? I feel that would make a huge difference in the entire process. What do you think about it, Sir and Gayatri?
I agree with what you said. Also, I would ask, sir, what about the lab sessions, sir? What about the field visit? What about the physical aspect of education? How would we get to do anything about that on digital sphere?
Right. See, I think podcast is definitely a good idea, but what you also need to understand that podcasts do work when you are trying to disseminate a concept which does not need a lot of visual renditions to accompany it. For example, if you are trying to explain somebody a Pythagorean theorem, a podcast would not suffice, because though it can give you an intrinsic idea about what a Pythagorean theorem is all about, but unless and until the participant or the person sees that right angle triangle drawn in front of him, the perpendicular base and hypotenuse marked in front of him, it's going to be very difficult for him to comprehend it in the first go. So podcasts are good when you are trying to nurture a knowledge. So somebody knows about a Pythagorean thing, then you do a small 15 minutes, half an hour podcast on various utility and usage of Pythagorean theorem. Podcast is great. Second, podcasts do help when you have a lot of strategic stuff being discussed, when you are discussing a lot of things which needs, it doesn't really need something like a right angle triangle to be right in front of you. So for example, if you see these brands like Amoy, Vestige and all, the one which are into the MLM mode of marketing, they do a lot of podcasts for their people so that they can understand what's the brand ethos, what's the brand value, and it works perfectly. So it's, and most importantly, I think what you really need to understand, Molly, is that just a podcast, just a couple of knowledge dissemination is okay if you're looking for a finishing kind of a knowledge. But if you're talking about a school which is supposed to provide you with a structural education for a given class, finishing the curriculums, doing the various kind of mock surprise and unit tests, and then taking you to an exam, where there's a lot more structure and complexity, there you need a platform which is slightly more enriched and more process driven than just doing a couple of podcasts like a Udemy or a Coursera does. Though in fact, Coursera does have a lot of, structural element when you take a more detailed course, but still it lacks a lot of elements like assessment, a customized reporting and things like that. So Gayatri, to answer your query about lab session and field visit, now there is a lot of discussion and thought going on in terms of doing a lot of DIY kind of module where the kids can, from their home, conduct a lot of experiment. Say, for example, in a physics class, ICSE 10th, you have things like Vernier calipers and screw gauge and all that, which is not a very costly thing. You can buy at home. You can just see a DIY video presented by the teacher and you can implement all those things at your home. But of course, it cannot replace the practical thing 100% because you really should not advisably set up a chemistry lab at your home where you are dealing with the hydrochloric acid and nitric acids and all, because you can actually create a lot of safety issues there. So, like I said, and of course, fields visit, excursions, trips, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you can't do it. You can have some virtual stuff. You can have some simulation. I mean, you will be surprised to know that most of the top production or manufacturing companies, they do their entire manufacturing training on a simulation model. In fact, I was involved with one such project in my small stint with a company called Simulation Sciences in Hyderabad. And we used to work for a US company where we created those simulation models, but they do not 100%, replace what an excursion would bring to the table. Like Molly keeps mentioning, that touch, that warmth, that social interaction, that understanding the human nature, that building of cognitive intelligence definitely doesn't get replicated by doing those virtual stuff. But yes, like I said, it's no more a good to have thing. It is becoming a need of the hour. So yeah, podcasts do help. Lab sessions can be mimicked, but simulation, AI-based simulation platforms can get created and augmented. But yeah, they just represent a percentage of what a student would love to do while he's in his school in physical manner. So yeah, so that's how it is, I guess.
Interesting. In fact, who would not like a Black Mirror format lessons? I feel nothing like it. Maybe an interactive, maybe a lesson in an interactive movie format. What if you choose this option? What kind of permutation and combinations would you get? And what if you choose option B? So I don't know, maybe others might not, might feel it, I'm just being too dramatic or I'm watching too much of Netflix these days, but I feel that would be an interesting way of disseminating information.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and thank you, sir, for your thoughts. I think it's time that we speak to the students in the manner they would want to understand and they desire to. We should definitely revisit the curriculum, the traditional method of education. I feel a lesson on the recent developments like app development would make more sense now rather than, saying or talking about conquests. I think we need to make them aware of how their strategic thinking and decision-making abilities of the rulers or of the kings allowed them to rule the world. So what would you say about that, sir?
I think making it more contextual, I think we've been hearing this term a lot, which says that, rebooting your business, reprogramming yourself as an individual. I think it's time to somewhere reboot the education system as well. Since I have been following it for quite some time now, I think it's not as easy as we three are talking, Molly and Gayatri, but like I said, it needs a holistic kind of a approach. It's time bound. You really can't predict it, whether this change is good or bad or worse or great. Like I said, we are looking at a new normal. I have been speaking to some of these kids who are my son's friends, and you will be surprised at the class 9, they are talking about things like differential calculus. They are doing game development courses. In fact, my kid has enrolled himself to White Hat Junior, which is another online simulation platform. and every week he has got 3 classes. And today he actually can create a AI enabled character, which is basically a gaming character, all by his own. He hasn't really asked me a single word ever. Doesn't make me happy as a dad, of course, but I mean that's the reality with which we have to live with. So there is a lot of this change which is happening. These kids are extremely exposed to these virtual mediums, and this entire COVID-19 will make that exposure much bigger, much higher. We'll need to wait and watch. I mean, that's from the social side of it. Because there is a reason why a pedagogy exists. There is a reason why a structure exists. There is a reason why you learn trigonometry only in class 9. There's a reason why you get into classical mechanics in class 11. Now, these reasons are getting challenged. So we will have to wait and watch a bit and see how the outcome really spans itself. But on the business side of things, and this is exactly for what we were here today, I think it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for all the educational institutes, finishing schools, every small and big business which is related to education per se in some form or the other, because this new normal, this entire entropy, that this entire disruption, this amalgamation of new set of technologies, processes and governance is actually opening up a lot of window and opportunity. So I think if we can keep the tagline right, that let's pledge for fair education for all, I think, which has been the mantra which has helped us as a country to take the next steps. If that remains intact, let everybody get an equal opportunity to learn if they want to learn. If we can keep this basic ethos in mind, I think we are going to see some very exciting times in the days to come as far as education is concerned.